Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our last live broadcast or panel discussion. My name is Roger Williams. I have the pleasure of being your host for this discussion, and I have with me, joining me today is Alicia Williams, who just lost her video just a while ago. Hopefully she's there. Alicia is the Director Principal for the Northeastern TVET Institute for Heart NSTA Trust. And we also are joined by Felicia Gallimore, who is a recruiting manager for Concentrix, which is one of the largest outsourcing companies in the world and have been in Jamaica for a few years and quickly growing thanks in no small part to Felicia's efforts. So before I jump into the questions, just want to kind of set the background for our topic today: lifelong learning and career growth for current and future opportunities in the GSS sector. Now, when we speak about lifelong learning, I know when I was in school, not going to say how many years ago, that was a frightening thought to me, because I was so anxious to finish school and get it behind me and just get into the exciting world of work. But as we all know, not just in this sector, the GSS sector, but especially so in this sector because of how technology and knowledge driven it has become, and increasingly so. You never stop learning, because the sector or the demands of the many jobs, if not all jobs in the sector, is constantly changing, whether it's because clients have new and evolving needs, or, as I said before, technology is driving change and demanding more skills to utilize those technologies to serve clients, or just new information as innovation takes place and industries and companies have to keep up with that knowledge. So whichever angle you come from, getting the job is one thing, but thriving and growing in the organization is going to depend in no small part on continuous knowledge development, training, and education. And so what we're going to talk about today, I've got some perspectives from what I would like to call the supply side with Alicia and her leadership of the TVET Institute with Heart, and from the demand side, which is Felicia being our recruiting manager. As we would have heard earlier today, the GSS sector, the global services sector, is quickly evolving, not just globally, but in Jamaica. And our 5-year strategy between 2020 and 2025 is speaking to not just continued growth, but growth more focused in what we call the higher value added service segments. And for those of you who may have been listening and participating in some of the earlier discussions, you would have heard panelists speak about companies that are doing things like in software development, cybersecurity, data analytics, in some of the KPO spaces, market research, proposal writing, business and financial services, HR admin support services, digital content management. These are things that we're doing in some shape or form in Jamaica today, but we want to grow even faster. And so our strategy, the central part of executing that strategy, is the development of our human capital. A few days ago, somebody was asking me, how is the sector performing after COVID? How are we looking? Is the industry growing again? Is there any concerns about demand? My response was simple. We don't have a concern with demand. Demand is growing even more so for Jamaica during and after our transition through COVID. Our concern, or our challenge, I should say, is to meet, particularly with our talent capability, that growing demand. So with that backdrop and setup, I will now bring in far more informed and interesting people than I am. And I want to start with Alicia. So Alicia, just a lot of people, we see the ads on TV every night with Heart NSTA Trust, and everybody has at least a casual understanding of what Heart NSTA Trust is. But your institute, the TVET Institute, technical and vocational education and training, has a specific niche in heart. You want to tell us a little bit about what your institute focuses on and maybe how it helps to support the training and knowledge needs for the GSS?
Definitely. Thank you so much, Roger. Really appreciate it. And to our viewers, I welcome you to this discussion. The Heart NSTA Trust, we focus on TVET, and so we are the Human Capital Development Agency for Jamaica, and we train, assess, and certify persons to supply the labor force. So as he rightly said, we are on the supply side in terms of the labor that enters the labor force for the global services sector. As it pertains to the TVET Institute's role in providing support to the sector, we offer various amounts of programs from the entry level all the way to the supervisory and managerial level. So at the entry level, there are programs, customized programs really, that the organization through market research would have spoken to some of the players in the sector to ensure that we can align what we're training our in participants, our trainees, so that when they do come to the providers, they are suitably competent to deliver the services that they require. So there is a fundamentals of customer engagement program that we have developed, which normally runs between 10 to 12 weeks on a part-time basis. And the program really is an amalgamation of various skills. So we look at the soft skills and we look at the digital skills, and we try to find a midpoint with these so that when the persons come, they might have had a prior qualifications, CXCs, sometimes even degrees, but we find that their adaptation to the marketplace sometimes needs to be bolstered by providing these additional skills. Cognitive skills, critical thinking skills, the basic Microsoft usage, etc., are also included. Now, Heart Trust has a number of modalities through which the training can be accessed. The TVET Institute is one such, and as the director principal for the Northeast TVET, we have been on a thrust to try and engage persons through various means, whether face-to-face, blended with this now pandemic. We have also been pushing a lot of the online programs to reach persons who the previous forum spoke about remote work. We are actually doing remote learning. And so we try as best as possible to meet our customers where they are and to provide them with that critical support through training and certification. And certification is so important because through our interface with the labor market, we were able to pivot because our partners, such as Ms. Felicia, would have given us feedback on the program that we once had, and we had to pivot and relook at the curriculum because we want to remain relevant. And so whatever content that we're training in, we want to make sure that the labor market, when they do receive our graduates, can be satisfied with the level of service that they provide. So in a nutshell, that's basically what we do at Heart. There are a number of programs that I mentioned before, and I want to also plug that a lot of persons might see us as just at the entry level, but we have a lot of supervisory courses that we do offer persons, as well as managerial programs, which range starting from the customized programs all the way up to level 5. And so those are available as well.
Thanks, Alicia. I hope you mentioned the supervisor and management development course. As we were discussing before we went live, Felicia is now enrolled in the GSS project-driven apprenticeship program, which is a 12-month program developed in collaboration with Heart NSTA Trust. And we know from feedback from the industry that this is supervisory management and mid-level management are important gaps to fill too, because as the industry grows, we're going to need more leaders at those levels. So I'm happy that you raised that. It's not just about a specialized subject, technical matter, but also management and supervisor training. So segue, Felicia. So you as a recruiting manager, as we said earlier, would now be in the position where you are responding to the needs of your organization. Needs, as we mentioned earlier, are fast changing, because this sector is growing fast and it's not growing just in one direction. It's evolving many different facets. And so you have to go out there and find the talent. You have to find the skill. What has been, and you have been in this sector for a few years. Full disclosure, I know you used to work at this stuff. We used to work at this stuff together. It's like a separate reunion because we saw Kishman earlier on a panel. We see you here now. What is your perspective on how, as you are recruiting, how are you seeing the roles, particularly in some of those higher value added services areas that I mentioned earlier? How are you seeing that evolve in your own organization, Concentrix? Are those roles growing in number? Are you hiring more people? And how are you seeing your ability to recruit for those roles?
All right. So good afternoon, everyone. Wow, our ability to recruit for those roles has gotten easier and it has gotten more challenging. As persons has mentioned before, and my colleague mentioned that we're doing a lot of remote hiring. The sector has changed based on our current international climate, what's happening within our society, and we had to pivot last year from in-office recruiting to virtual recruiting. What that has opened up, and through Heart as well, it has allowed us to kind of broaden the sphere of candidates that we can choose from as it relates to qualification. Usually we would look for 6 months BPO experience. We would look for you having at least 4 CSEC subjects and so on. But with the change in the need for working at home and the clientele has changed, we have now been able to broaden the scope to look at Heart certifications, level 1 and level 2. It's great that Heart has the BPO specific diplomas, but because of the change in the climate, we have now been able to pivot, and with some of the industries being closed, such as the hotel industries and so on, we have been able to use some of those skills that people have to parlay them into our customer service positions that we're seeing. So now we have people who are trained in bartending, who worked at the front desk and so on. They have been able to use those skills that they have learned in customer service and in dealing with that international clientele. We've been able to parlay that into, for example, working on one of our rental accounts, one of our coffee accounts, because they have that natural charisma in dealing with the international clientele. So while it has gotten a little bit more challenging with the work at home in terms of the infrastructure of our internet capabilities across Jamaica, which we know about, it has gotten easier because we have been able to broaden the parameters of the selection geography that we've been able to pick from. So it's been very, very interesting and it's been very good. So thank you, Heart, for that. We know at Concentrix, we now accept Heart certification in addition to the CSEC subjects or instead of CSEC subjects. So it has allowed us to be more flexible with our selection criteria.
I'm glad you raised that. But before we get to that, because I want to connect back to Alicia with that last point. So we've been talking about, recruiting talent as important to supporting your organization, other organizations in the sector. But even though you're on the recruiting side, I'm sure you know that also what is important is to upskill your existing talent. That is your employees. Tell us from your perspective, how important that is in your organization. I know you're on the recruiting side, me and the external, but I know it's a very connected organization. How important that is. So that's another aspect of lifelong learning. And how does an organization like Heart support those continuous upskilling needs for existing employees as they seek new opportunities, or just to keep up with the changing demands of their roles?
Okay. Was that a Felicia question or Alicia question?
Felicia question.
Okay, so all right, so at Concentrix, one of our core values, is that we invest in the future of our company and our employees, and we're fanatical about our clients and staff. So we are now ramping a major ramp. You've seen in the articles that we released. We're hiring between April and November 1,000 advocates, right? And that's entry level. Of course, we need support. And what we have done, we have such a solid learning and development infrastructure within Concentrics that we have a lot of supervisory training programs, Aspire to Be. We have Team Leader Academy, Operations Manager Academy. You can train, and we have Concentrics University. So what we have done is invested internally in our employees. So what that does, when they do these self-paced training programs, they're at the forefront to be selected to lead or team that's coming in. Over the last year, we've promoted about 80 persons internally to SMEs, subject matter experts, my apology, to WFM personnels, to ops managers, team leaders, and quality assurance managers and trainers. So it is very important that we upskill from within. And that is allowing us now that we are ramping to hiring 1,000, which will double our population. We now have internally trained staff with that. However, we are also cognizant that while our programs are tailored for our company and our structure and they're internally certified, we want to also ensure that our employees are externally certified. So that is why we have 90 people from Concentrics now enrolled in the GSS program that you mentioned earlier, so that they can not only learn about our internal development, but they can learn through HEART, which is, the industry leader right now, as Alicia mentioned, in training our Jamaican human capital. So, yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
No, you did. Thanks.
Okay.
Yes,
Alicia, you want to jump in?
Yes, I want to jump in because Felicia,
yes,
she says it so beautifully. I think the critical point that we are partnering to support the industry. So she mentioned the apprenticeship program that we are now implementing to support the supervisory development of staff. One of the other critical components of our partnership with the industry is to assess and certify the workforce who are currently employed but do not have certification. Because oftentimes what we find is that the CXC subjects, and you come and you get internally trained at your current job, but you don't have any type of certification that can now propel you. So we look at these as add-ons. You mentioned, Roger, about the capacity development. The continuous capacity development is something that we also try to do to tailor our programs to match the needs of the industry. So we're not only looking at just the IT type of training programs, but we're also looking at those KPOs, the knowledge skills. So accounting, we're looking at now we're looking at even programming persons. We have an academy that is tailored to just persons to learn how to program. HEART is trying to expand because at the end of the day, we have to remain relevant. Because if we're not relevant, it means that we're going to be providing or producing graduates who won't be able to acclimatize themselves with the pace of the industry. And so it's going to be null and void, really.
Right. You mentioned the software development. Is that the Amber Heart Academy you're referring to? Yes. And for those who may not know, that is a partnership with Amber Group and Heart to train hundreds eventually of software developers to help to support the software development niche that I mentioned earlier. So I want to go back to something Felicia mentioned earlier, which I think was important, Alicia, which is she said that Concentrics is now as one of their formal qualification recognition. So in addition to CSEC, etc., they're looking at specific HEART certifications. I think that's important because I think whereas Felicia is trying to hire talent, HEART is kind of putting themselves out as a relevant service to develop talent that trainees are going to want to be confident that industries are going to hire them. So my question to you is that shift or that development that Felicia mentioned, is that growing? Are more and more organizations are you seeing working with HEART to say, look, we want to recognize very formally your certifications, and how is that message being pushed out there to the training world? I mean, people would want to know that if I get a certification from HART, it's going to be recognized by Felicia and her team at Concentrix and other companies. So is that being publicized broadly to help to drive the interest in your programs?
Definitely, because we have industry liaison officers whose primary focus is to ensure that we have a relationship with our stakeholders. Our acting deputy managing director calls them our shareholders. These persons who contribute to our 3% and who at the end of the day are going to employ our graduates. So we're really training for them. And the key to this is partnership, because at the end of the day, oftentimes to keep abreast or a pace with the labor market, you need to have partnership with those movers and shakers who can say to you that this is what we now need because the sector is moving in this direction. So the focus has always been to try and make sure that our NVQJ, which is the certificate that we issue, remains current. And so the persons who migrate, persons who are even accepted locally, attending university, these are some of the avenues through which our certification can be used. Persons will tell you that a customized or even a job qualification, which is less than a level 1 NVQJ, can get them significant recognition when they go overseas. But one of the critical aspects to having a certification that is worth using is that persons can readily identify it and can also readily identify the quality of the graduates who have presented this certificate. And so across the network of TVET, we have ensured quality within our programs to ensure that the persons who we are producing can meet these international standards and the local standards, of course. So yes, persons, the programs and the entry requirements for a number of the labor market positions have really opened up themselves to be accepting of the NVQJs, as well as even acceptance into colleges and universities to pursue tertiary level programs. Great.
So Felicia, we have just a little bit of time, and I just glanced in the chat section of this screen, and I see a question I think is directed at you. What would negatively impact a person's interview, thus allowing them not to be chosen for a position? I guess that list is a long list, but
right, it's a long list, but I can respond within the confines of what we're discussing. What would impact them negatively is, for example, if you apply for a job and it's customer service and you just say, I've done customer service, I'm a customer service agent, and that's it. And when we try to expound on it, what did you do within the course? For example, many people who were in the hotel industry, they think I can't go into the BPO because I don't have any BPO experience, but they have their HART certificate. And what's the beautiful thing about HART? Yes, and I'm also a graduate of HART because I have a postgraduate diploma in education and training. So I'm a huge HART advocate, right?
It's turned into a HART commercial.
No,
can I tell you? And I love it. Also say that I used to work in the global services sector. So
right. The beauty about HART and why we decided to start looking at HART is the fact that HART is competency based. So once you've been a part of that program, you've had to do a lot of teamwork, and everything you do was competency based. So what we would encourage people to do, and what negatively impacts them, is they limit themselves to say, I was just a bartender, I just worked at the front desk. Instead of saying that, look at your HART program that you have. A lot of the courses that you did there were customer service, right? That would show that you have empathy, as well as the fact that you were working at the front desk. You're not selling yourself properly. You're just saying, oh, I work at the front desk. No, if you worked at the front desk, you could say you were a customer service liaison. You were the first point of contact. It's just how you sell yourself. Don't let it be flat to say, okay, I don't have the qualification, but I'm trying. Sell yourself. It starts from your resume as well. Be as detailed as possible. Look at the job description and what we're looking for. And every single experience you've had in your life, put that in there. I tell people, even if you were a dog walker, you can say that you managed international relations or you managed cross-culture relations. It's just how you sell yourself, right? So when you come into that interview, be confident. And especially now, we're doing a lot of virtual interviews, and we will be doing the interviews and someone will come in and they're talking to you. A lot of things are happening, there's noise. Just ensure that your background is sterile. Ensure that you look professional. Sometimes they're doing interviews, the phone is falling, you can't hear, people are talking, your cell phone is ringing. So ensure that you treat the virtual interviews just the same as if you're going into an office. It doesn't matter what's below the camera, as long as from neck up, right? See, Alicia, Roger, and I, neck up. We don't know what's happening below the camera frame, you know.
I hear that. So
right. Some of those things.
Yeah,
yeah.
No, thanks for that. That's you're right on point. I would add, we're out of time, but I'll just add that just to try and, of course, tie it together. One of the things that I think is important, of course, that you're looking for are people who have demonstrated a commitment to lifelong learning. Because as we said at the top of this discussion, your qualification serves needs today, but they're not necessarily going to serve needs tomorrow. So you have to be committed and ready to continually learn, invest in your own training and development and growth if you're going to be successful, not just in this sector, but especially in this sector. So, ladies, we could talk for another hour, I know, because you have a wealth of knowledge and information to share, but time is on us, and I just want to thank you for your insight and your discussion, and wish all of you, or both of you, a great evening, and all the best.